What is going on, everybody? Bobby Fi with Eric Sheets-Haber. We're going to be talking through today's MLB 7-gamer for the main slate. I didn't do well last night. I had some decent some decent looks in the smaller buy-in stuff, but I played in the 1500. I played the St. Louis stack, which did not go well. It started off to a great start. My two one-offs hit home runs and Contreras, and I was in the top 5. It was just looking like it was going to be one of those days, and I was excited. And literally nothing happened for the rest of the day. And on top of it, my last switch was off Max Fried as my SP2, so that's on me. But I said that the one thing you really scare about with him not playing him is the complete game shutout, and of course that's what happens. So Sheets, you did better last night. Nice job, and tell me about it, and then we'll get into today's slate.
Yeah, I ended up getting, I guess I would say, lucky. So I ended up playing Lopez with what's his name? The guy that beats the Dodgers. Now I forget his name already. I'm such an idiot. The San Francisco guy.
Lopez with Webb.
Yeah, Logan Webb.
That's what I played as well, by the way.
So I had Logan Webb with Lopez, and I ended up stacking a combination of Seattle and Toronto. And I got very lucky with respect to Seattle because they only scored 4 runs, but I got all of it. You know,
and they were home runs.
Yeah, I had the Raleigh and the Julio. So that was fortunate enough, and it wasn't a particularly high scoring slate. So between that reality and I was able to cash despite not having any of the Arizona. Even if I played Arizona, I do not think Newman would be in my lineups. Probably.
So it's funny you mentioned that, yeah.
He's the guy I usually fade of the Arizona guys, and he was in the winner. So
yeah, I had the 15% Arizona stacks by the end of it, which was my I think my 4th highest owned stack, and I actually had a chance in the 111. I was in 5th place until about the very end of the night. I guess it was the last Logan Webb stuff that got me, but I had Arizona with Fried and Pavin Smith at first, who was 0.5% owned, who had the biggest scoring night of anybody. Somehow it ended up getting like 10th or 11th or something in the 111, but again, like you said, I didn't play the Newman. So
yeah, him I wouldn't. Yeah, Pavin Smith I would have had like if I was hand building and playing Arizona, because he's like a guy that I'll play. You know what I mean? But Newman is always a guy that I will manually, if I'm hand building, just not use. You know, so I wasn't going to have him. That's just the way it is.
Yep. Well, I'm bringing out all the stops today. I'm trying my blue light glasses for good luck. Also, because my eyes have been going crazy looking at all these screens. I felt like yesterday was the most like research and deep diving I've done. And not just a slate, but like just trying to get familiar. It's that time of the year with the MLB. It's like we've played 20 some odd games. You're starting to get a feel for who's good and who's where and all that stuff. So spent a lot of time on that yesterday, and hopefully it'll pay off in the coming weeks. So you ready to get into this, Sheets?
No, just a couple of announcements first. So first of all, I'm not going to be here tomorrow or Friday, just so you guys know. I'm going to be able to put up an MMA video at some point. I just don't know exactly when, but I will do that. And the other thing is, I have to leave right after we do baseball, so I'm not going to be able to come in the NBA. But I want to give a take in the NBA in case we don't get there, in case we forget to do it at 6. I wanted to ask you about this, and again, this is for baseball, whatever. But I was just in my head. I mean, somebody that's online who's pretty sharp. He was posting like this single game parlay that he likes for New Orleans, and his logic was that he's suspecting that Valanciunas might actually get benched in some way, and it's like basically predicated on the Larry Nance overs and the Valanciunas unders. And I was thinking about that. You know, I don't usually bet those things, but to apply to DFS, I mean, I think that would be a pretty good thing to do. Is to play Larry Nance, because like you look at the box scores, and can't imagine them benching Valanciunas, right? I mean, he's got like 20 rebounds in the last game, whatever. But if you do like a little deeper dive, I mean, like so many of those rebounds were based on his own freaking missed layups. You know what I mean? Like it's I don't know. I'm actually considering it in DFS to go to go heavy on Larry Nance today.
Yeah, just for the background on that part of it, because I'm pretty familiar with the situation. Like I've been saying this the whole time, and that's what they've done every game. Is they have eventually, and they've closed with Larry Nance every game I think so far. Valanciunis's minutes have been whatever, but he did get the 29 minutes the other day without Zion. I don't know about. I think you could literally I mean we'll talk about it later when I talk about some NBA stuff, but I do think you could actually consider playing even those guys together potentially.
Ooh, that's interesting.
DFS because they're both very reasonable, price wise. Anyway, all right, so let's get into it. We'll bring up your screen and we'll go game by game here. And
good segue there for seeing that I forgot to put my screen up. That was good.
I was trying to do my best.
Pretty smooth too. Let me see. Sheet remembers like moron that he didn't put his screen up. Let's get started. Okay. All right. Okay. So Oakland against New York. Yeah. All right. So I'm getting Clark Schmidt right now as one of the top 2 pitchers on the slate as far as the way I rate values, and I don't know. I don't know about this. Again, that's something. I really am biased against all the Yankees. It's amazing, right? I'm
you really are. It's true.
And I try I fade Rodon. I fade everybody. I just don't. I'm not a believer, I guess. But I'll just start with the projections. I mean, he looks really, really good. I think that 40.66% of the population seems to be agreeing with this take because that's his projected ownership right now at 40%. And I'll also say that when I just ran my first bit of Sims and whatever, obviously Saberson wants me to play Oakland. I don't know. That's the best I can say. I think I'd rather try to find a way to pivot somehow at 40% ownership for Clark Schmidt, but he certainly looks like a really, really good option. Now, I'm not getting any of the Boyle. Boyle, he had a lot of kind of end of season hype coming into this year, and I don't think he's gotten anybody out yet. So he might have in the last game, but I've been having some very poor luck taking shots. He is basically min price, actually 6,200, but I'm probably not going to get to that. With respect to the Yankees, okay. I mean, I have them 4th, 5th, just on raw points, sort of, whatever that means. I have them 5th, and they don't look like they're going to be particularly high owned. So, yeah, sure. I mean, I guess Chalk, Schmidt, and Yankees, I suppose, makes sense. What do you think of Clark Schmidt in this spot? What do you think of anything?
Yeah, I'm right now. I've got to consider always taking pitchers against Oakland. They got off to a hot start against Stroman last night. He still was okay, even not okay, but it wasn't the worst thing ever. I like Schmidt just fine. It does feel like a lot of ownership, and he's not cheap either. And the upside you sort of question, although it's Oakland. But yeah, it certainly seems like a logical cash game play. I think that both offenses are in play here. You have a little better hitting weather. It's 13 degrees blowing out to right center, and it's 61 degrees, so it's a little bit warmer. You would know that better than I would because you're there. But I mean, I think it's a spot where we can attack some low-owned stacks, maybe to go with maybe the Colorado or the Yankees are tied for the 3rd highest total on the board with Colorado, and nobody projected to be more than 5%, 6%, 7% owned. So I'm into the idea of getting some exposure to the Yankees, and I don't mind some exposure against the chalky Clark Schmidt. You have the cheap A's, and they came out. Lawrence Butler at 2,100 last night, now 2,200, hit a home run last night. Zach Geloff is going to be a future star in the league. Seth Brown is still 3,100. Abraham Toro 3,300 leading off at the weak third base. I think there's a lot of things to do in this game. It's not the highest priority for me, but I think that I might consider the Yankees as more of a stack. I actually don't think Boyle is that bad, but the bullpen behind him certainly is. And, the Yankees are due for a real explosion one of these days. So maybe this is the day.
Okay.
Miami and Atlanta.
Miami and Atlanta. We have Reynaldo Lopez.
He's been awesome.
Lopez at 9,200.
Who would have thought?
Okay. Yeah. I don't know. I don't think I have it in me. That's the best I can say. He does project to be one of, this is the way I have it looking. I have it looking at as someone we're going to get to later who's pretty obvious, then Clark Schmidt, and then like a drop to like a couple of guys. And the three guys that are in that next tier, one of them is Reynaldo Lopez. So I'll just kind of leave it at that. As far as the hitting goes, broken record, Atlanta's always in play. They're always expensive, and they're all, not say always, but they rate to usually be low owned as a result of their expense. So if you can get to them, sure, you should always have a couple of Atlanta stacks kind of lurking around, but certainly it's not going to be easy to get to. But I don't know, there are pitchers you could play, I guess. Maybe not, actually. Well, maybe we'll talk about some of them. I actually don't think there are pitchers you can play. We'll see. I don't think I'll be able to get to Atlanta as far as price goes. What do you think of Lopez here? What do you think of Atlanta? Anything else?
Yeah, so I actually think that if Lopez was going to be lower owned, I'd be more than happy to take some shots. I mean, the guy's given up, 1 run in 3 starts this year. He's been really, really good. And the strikeouts have been decent. His pitch count's up. This is a guy who I used to be high on, and I thought the White Sox just didn't have a good pitching coach. I mean, everybody fell apart when they came there. It's sort of a sign. But Lopez, now that he's in Atlanta, and this is a team that can help you figure things out. So I am open to the just long-term and short-term of Lopez in general. Then you get the bullpen game against Atlanta in 71-degree weather with a very shaky bullpen from what I can tell. And, it's mid-relief, but it's I don't love stacking against bullpen games, but 71 degrees, 8-mile-an-hour winds blowing out this time of year feels pretty good to me. Feels like it's time to play Atlanta, but the problem is, where are they going to be owned? So you look at them, and it's shockingly, because everybody's on the Coors, looking very low, and because they're hard to get to unless you play David Fletcher. So David Fletcher will be in most Atlanta stacks. And it's odd to say that, hey, if you want to get different, play an Atlanta stack without David Fletcher. But he's 2,300, so he makes everything else work. And for some reason, it just seems like the other thing that's a little bit of a concern is I don't know what they're going to do. I want to keep an eye out for Atlanta's lineup because Kalenic might start. It might be Lopez. It might be Guillermo. But then you've got to worry about the pinch hitting because if it's a bullpen game, they're going to go righty-lefty, I think. So it's a little concerning whoever Atlanta has at the bottom of the order. But I do think that that's what makes the pieces work. And I'm going to do my best to get myself my Atlanta shares. We know how these guys, they steal bases even when they aren't hitting home runs, and the home run power will come, which just hasn't been there so far this year outside of Ozuna. But I am on the Atlanta side, and I am probably not going to play Lopez. But I do have him he's definitely in consideration for me right now. Just because I don't really love, there's not a whole lot that I feel like I need to play at pitcher, to be honest. All right, Houston, Chicago.
What's the weather there?
42 degrees with 10-mile-an-hour winds blowing in from left. The exact opposite of what we were getting.
Okay, so I think that I think I'm probably off in this game. I don't think the pitchers are good enough really to take advantage of the weather. I'm probably not going to go for that, and I think the weather is too bad, too rough for me to play the hitters. So I'm probably, I guess, going to be off of this. If I had to pick between those two things I said I wasn't going to do, and I suppose is it possible that the pitchers are? I don't know. I'm probably just going to be off this.
Yeah. So this Arigati is getting some love here.
No way, really?
Yeah, he's 6,500, and look, I mean, he's got a 5K prop, and which is not like amazing, but he's got a 5K prop against a tough Chicago team, but it's really bad hitting weather. And Jameson Taillon, I just think we have to just think about it, just because the hitting weather is so bad, but it doesn't feel great. And I guess that's sort of the theme of this pitching slate is, boy, there's a lot of stuff that just doesn't quite feel great. Not to mention, I mean, first of all, I'm definitely not doing it if he's coming in the long relief, which I think is very possible. I think they might start somebody else and then bring in Arrighetti. We've seen that go different ways so many times. Usually Houston's pretty good about that stuff. But, yeah, so I have both pitchers on my mind, but, like, I don't think that I really want to do anything Again, though, I'm going to have to find somebody to play. And even Schmidt, who I have as a priority right now, I don't really love that either. So maybe trying to find something a little different will make some sense later on, because Arrighetti and Tyon, I think, are going to get a little bit of ownership just because people are going to see the weather and there's not a whole lot to love. Are we maybe underestimating that Tyon might be a decent, like he only had the one start. That's the problem. He only threw 73 pitches. They'll probably ramp him up. I don't think they'll throw that much. Otherwise, I would probably be okay using him even against Houston. So this game is a big question mark for me. I guess that's the answer. I'm not playing the hitting right now.
Yeah, I pass on Talion.
You, of course, because he pitched for the Yankees.
He pitched for the Yankees.
And any former Yankee cheats out.
Everybody's ever thrown a ball for the Yankees at any point, it gets X'd out of the player pool. That's the
okay. And yeah, it is cold K9 in the Midwest right now. It's crazy. He said it dropped from 70 to 32. It's really bizarre, the weather that changes these days. All right, Chicago. No, sorry. Yeah, you have Toronto and KC.
What's the weather? Is there wind in Kansas City that's projected, or no? Not really. Not that much.
Today it was wind blowing in 70 degrees.
Oh, yeah. So it's not the Kansas City wind blowing out of 25 thing today. Okay.
No.
Okay. So listen, this is a really. By the way, we're going into Sheets sarcastic mode now, but there was a really big thing that happened a couple of days ago. So Brady Singer took the loss, so that really set up Alec Marsh here to position himself for that Game 2 start in the World Series, because it was going to be Reagan Singer, I think, or Singer Reagan's. But when Singer's lost, now Alec Marsh is really in position here. I mean, his WHIP is 1.03, so I'm expecting it to get to 0.94 eventually with his stuff. So this is a big start for him, I think, against Toronto, and because he's got the wind in his favor, I think he's pretty reasonable here, and he's 7K. He's going to obviously project to have like 9 fantasy points, because that's what all the Kansas City pitchers get projected at. I can't even find him on my list, but I'm going to try some of this actually, because in part, I mean, I'm looking at Toronto here, and Toronto, they actually do have like a projection. I mean, they're projected like 4th overall, and value, they're projected to have a pretty good value score also. And I'm actually showing them as could be the 2nd most popular stack on the slate. So, hey, lack of respect, I really would take a shot at Alec Marsh at 7K. We want to talk about like low price pitchers to get to other things. I actually I'm not against this. I started off just kind of thinking this is a joke, but as I'm talking through this, I actually don't think it's that bad of an idea. So I think Alec Marsh at low ownership at low price, I think makes a lot of sense. But with respect to the actual, projections and stuff like that, definitely Toronto is showing up as very viable.
Yeah, a lot of good stuff. I totally agree about Alec Marsh being in play here. We don't like anything.
Okay.
No, we don't like anything. He's 7K. What are we treating Toronto as now? All of a sudden they're a good offense, and now we have to play them. Like, why?
Right? Where are the lefties in that lineup too?
Yeah, what happened? We just were against this a minute ago. Like now we're like, okay, now we're back on. I don't know. I don't like to follow that. So I think Toronto is like, it's fine. I think Marsh is probably pitching a little bit above his head, but we don't really know yet. With some of these young guys. So I'm on board with it. Marsh is in play. I'm not going to play Yariel Rodriguez, but I wanted to touch a few things about him. He's going to pitch in, like they're going to use an opener, and then he's going to come in. He has, and I looked back at some other stuff. He's got what appears to be incredible strikeout stuff. The problem is, like I don't know if he's
who is this?
Yariel Rodriguez for Toronto.
The guy that's coming in as the reliever.
Well, but yeah, they have him listed as a starter, and he's pricey, so it's hard to play him. But he probably has the best strikeout stuff on the slate. Like honestly, it would not surprise me if he was if he was 6K, I would be loaded up on him. 8K is a little bit different. It doesn't quite feel right. But I'm in on the Marsh, and I think that on the flip side, like I do think Toronto is a team I'm considering today. I don't think I'm going to stack them fully, because again, Marsh hasn't been that bad. I don't have a reason to just play a chalky Toronto stack. But yeah, they certainly look okay. And I'm not going to get to any Kansas City just because I don't like the long relief. And I think that this pitcher, this Cuban, this Rodriguez may actually be a pretty decent. And And we'll see going forward. But keep an eye out. Like, it wouldn't surprise me if he came in and pitched like 4 innings that had 8 strikeouts, sort of like Dane Dunning last night. 4 innings, 8 strikeouts, 4 runs, couple of home runs, that kind of thing. Anyway, we can move on.
One thing I will say, by the way, just kind of like the no ball watching the game type thing. One thing about Seattle, they do free swing, man. They're going to put up some games where they strike out 14 times.
Well, they did. I mean, Dunning, 60% of the outs he recorded were strikeouts.
And not only that, but like the relievers came in and they were no worse. You know what I mean? Like Seattle was just swinging through everything. You know, it's like you get a home run or you're just they're a good team in DFS to both play and play against.
Yeah, so I understand why you did it. I don't understand why it was well, I didn't end up as chalky as I thought it was going to be. I just didn't understand why it was like Julio Rodriguez was like the most popular prop bet yesterday to hit a home run. This guy's played 22 games, hasn't hit a home run this season.
They knew. I'm telling you.
They just knew it was the time. I'm just like, are you guys serious? Like, I don't know. Sometimes when that stuff happens, man, I'm just like, something I'm missing.
Just knew.
They just knew. All right. So now we've got Minnesota and Chicago.
So early candidate for Cy Young and leader of the free world, Garrett Crochet, seems to be coming back to earth a little bit, to say the least. He started off the season just like that. Man, that Atlanta game was just amazing. I mean, honestly, you look back at that.
Yeah.
And then Kansas City, Cincinnati. Then finally got rocked at Philly. 3 home runs in 3 innings. That's the way it goes, I guess. On the other side, you have what's projecting as the cash play of the night. We saw how that worked out last night with the Minnesota pitcher.
What's unfortunate about that? It just shows you how 1 home run can change things because he actually pitched decent. Just that 1 3-run homer. That's it. Sorry.
Yeah. And so you have another shot against this White Sox team who was about to say has not hit the ball at all. They've had 1 good swing. How about that in the last?
Yeah, there you go.
I had that 1 swing to knock out everybody's lineup.
Right.
But Joe Ryan is certainly the top projected guy on the slate. He, cheap enough given the matchup. He's 45+% owned, I guess, and I can't really argue anything about it. Crochet is actually one of those 3 guys that I mentioned that was in that second tier, along with Lopez and somebody else. So I don't know if I can really do it, but he certainly projects well enough. I'm actually getting to some Minnesota here once again. I guess Minnesota is going to be another team that I just keep getting to. If they're going to keep making those guys the prices that they were. I mean, I don't know if Buxton's back, or even he's 4,200. That's kind of a crime. You know what I mean? So all these guys are really cheap. I'll probably get to a bunch of that as well.
Yeah, Buxton's nice to see him finally hit a home run. He's been really struggling. This is interesting because I mean, both the pitchers are going to be popular. I'm obviously going to play Joe Ryan most likely, just because I don't feel great about a lot of the pitching on this slate, but it's hard because I want to play Atlanta. So I don't know how that's going to work out yet, but I do like Joe Ryan, and I think Crochet is well in the mix. I mean, this is a great spot. The thing that's appealing to me about playing Twins bats is they're cheap, but the problem is they have 3 guys that are going to get platooned the second that you bring a righty in if the game's reasonably close.
Who is that?
So Margot is, well, I mean, again, not necessarily, but most likely Margot, Farmer, who's supposed to be batting cleanup at 2,300. There's a chance for Miranda because they've got, I mean, their whole team is, you could just look, it's a totally different lineup because when they play against lefties, and they have, I mean, we saw it. We saw last year when we saw 2 consecutive home runs from Eduardo Julian against a righty, and then they bring in a lefty, and boom, they pinch hit for him after 2 home runs his first 2 at bats. So they will pinch hit and pull the leash faster than anyone, including the Dodgers. It's just something to keep in mind. But I still think that getting to some bats from Minnesota is not the worst idea in the world because of the pricing. Maybe use it as a mini stack. But Farmer's 2,300 batting cleanup possibly. Second base, third base eligible. I think that's interesting. Buxton, and then you've got Jeffers, who I like already as a catcher. And you could throw Miranda into the mix. So I'm okay with a little mini stack of the Twins today as maybe a secondary stack. That's the best way I would look at them. But they definitely make things work price wise.
So as I just alluded to, as I just discussed actually, as we get to the Seattle Texas game, you have Seattle against another righty, and John Gray is the third of that second tier. So Crochet, Lopez, and Gray I have kind of rated similarly, and given everything that I just said about the way Seattle kind of rolls, I think I would prefer to play honestly John Gray than Lopez. I think I would prefer to play John Gray than Crochet, although it's close. And I think I'd prefer to play John Gray over everybody that I've discussed, like as an SP2. I think I'd rather play him than Clark Schmidt, if you want to know the truth, just because of the ownership. Mm-hmm. The only one I was about to say I'd play above him is maybe Marsh, just because of all the other stuff. But I could see variations where I play Marsh and Gray together. That could be something, and fade Ryan to get to some of the bigger bats. That actually could be the way to save money. It's not saving all the money, but it's saving at least some of the money.
Sure.
To play Gray and Marsh. That's only 15-3 between the two of them. But I think Gray is a very, very good play. I am not getting to the Bryce Miller. Look at him. He's been killing it.
He's a really good pitcher.
He's been killing it, Boy, maybe I should reconsider that. I'm not getting him right now, and he's not projecting well at all. But again, you know why he's not projecting well? I guess it's the stupid Texas thing again. Because everybody's just – but then again, John Gray is projecting well. I don't understand it.
No, it's because Texas is just loaded.
I guess so. So anyway.
It's treated like the Dodgers in Atlanta.
So I like Gray, and if Gray ended up being more popular, I know I would get to some Seattle stacks and wouldn't mind it, right? For all the reasons I just discussed about Seattle.
Yeah,
I think John Gray is a very, very strong play today.
And by the way, Seattle is going to be popular tonight. So take that for what it's worth. And I don't mind them, but they're not a priority for me. I am with you that I think John Gray is a reasonable enough play. It's just, again, it's outside of Schmidt and Ryan, and even those I don't feel like Ryan I feel pretty comfortable, but I don't feel like so comfortable with Schmidt. I think you could certainly make an argument with Gray as the SP2. I also I think Bryce Miller, it's a tough matchup. If there's I think, we saw Logan Gilbert do it. Why can't Bryce Miller go out there and have a game?
Oh, is that what happened? I didn't follow really the Seattle side of it.
Texas didn't score any runs, so he must have done something.
Did he have a good game, Logan Gilbert, though? Did he strike out guys too?
He must have done something. Let me just double check I think he had a good game. He had 6 strikeouts. He had 27.
Okay. Oh, that's amazing.
Yeah. So pretty solid. I would take that from pretty much anybody tonight, to be honest with you. So, but there's a part of me that wants to say, you know what, maybe the Texas just gets to Miller, but I just think that I'd rather play Atlanta as a non-core stack than Texas. I do think Texas is always in consideration against pretty much anyone, especially 7-game slates where they're not going to be double-digit owned. All right, San Diego, Colorado.
Okay. We'll say this again. San Diego rates to be the top overall stack on the slate. Then, by the way, I did not. I said I was going to do it. I didn't do it again. I said I was going to play Colorado yesterday against the Michael King. That was a pretty good call. You know what I mean? To get the Colorado part just not have any interest in the Michael King at high ownership. I didn't play Colorado after all. Thankfully, it was more Arizona I needed than Colorado. Right. But so anyway, Arizona rates to be the top play. They rate to be the highest owned.
You mean San Diego?
Yeah, sorry. Yeah, San Diego rates to be the highest owned as well. And I can't really dispute it, except for the fact they really haven't. How many did they score yesterday, San Diego? Did they put up a good game?
7, I think.
7? And 7's actually no. Colorado had 7. San Diego had 4.
Oh yeah, Colorado had 7. San Diego had 4. Yeah, what's weird is it didn't work out, but I actually played Feltner on the other side.
Oh, did you?
10%. Yeah, because strikeout rate was too high.
Yeah, so listen. It depends on how else you play. I mean, if you play Gray and Marsh, for example, then I think you have a license to play whoever you want hitting wise as far as ownership goes. So if I happen to like San Diego, I think I can get away with this because I think Schmidt and Ryan are just going to soak up so much of the ownership that I don't really think it matters. You know what I do hitting wise. Yet still, I still kind of want to fade San Diego anyway. But I just wouldn't know who to fade them with. You know, I guess if I can get to Atlanta, I would try that. Maybe maybe the Yankees. Maybe that's the idea. Like if I want to play fade San Diego, man, listen, you got to replace that with at least some team with a lot of upside. And who is that? I guess it's got to be either Atlanta or the Yankees.
Yeah.
But San Diego looks pretty good. I mean, obviously, Colorado. Yeah, I have them rated pretty high, actually.
They might be more popular than San Diego today.
Yeah, maybe. Oh, I don't know about that, but you could be. Hey, you could be right.
Look at the pricing difference. I mean, the early projections have them really, really close, but and there is some cheap. Well, you're right. It probably is ambitious, but SaberSim certainly thinks so in the morning.
So same deal. If you're going to play San Diego, make sure that you either play unchalky pitchers or unchalky complements to the San Diego stack. Probably both, or don't play the more popular combinations of the San Diego guys, that being either the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 lineup based stuff or whoever just looks the best. I mean, which are I don't even know who looks the best here. I'm sure you're going to get some of the cheaper guys. Campazano, I don't know which guys are going to run. Campazano, whatever. But yeah, San Diego, they look fine, and yet they still haven't scored anything. So, what do you think here?
Yeah, I'm going to say the same thing again. And it's, by the way, not everything has worked, and it's been an okay baseball start to me. No big wins, but like a lot of solid, finishes and stuff in the limited tournaments that I've been playing. But other than yesterday, but I really think that one thing that that works is to really I just don't want to be more than 4-man stacking a team that's going to be this popular. Like it's impossible. And they're in such an obvious spot. I think the ownership is actually projections are a little low on San Diego. So I will just keep my San Diego exposure to 4 or less. I might do a 4-4 with them, maybe with them in Atlanta if I can find a way. And I would say the same thing with Colorado as of right now, unless I think they're really going to be lower owned later in the day. I would try to keep Colorado, I'd be more open to a full stack because they're going to be, I think you're right. They're going to be lower owned than San Diego. I do really like Atlanta, and I like the Yankees as an interesting, low-owned pivot. So those will probably end up being my main stacks to go with the, and then the Twins are the value complementary stack. So I guess maybe you could play Twins as a 4-4 with like San Diego and get away with it. I have Schmidt and Ryan as clearly the cash game starters and probably the guys I use in my biggest buy-ins. I like your idea with Marsh. And I like the idea that you had about Gray as well. And I'm going to consider this Arrighetti thing just to be, in the interest of transparency. But he's my number 5 right now. I don't love this pitching. So much so to where I may just gamble and end up going Bryce Miller at the end of the day because you're going to get a 5% owned pitcher who's probably the second or third best pitcher on the slate.
Keep in mind, you had Machado was out, and I guess he's going to be out again today. So someone's going to slide in there, but I mean, I'm just looking at it.
He's been out for the last game. He hasn't played in Coolers yet.
These 4 righties here, they're all very, very reasonable. I think Tatis at 6,100 is very reasonable against a lefty. I think Kim at 4,500 is reasonable. Bogart's even 5K. We're not the biggest Bogarts fans here, whatever, but and Campazano at the catcher position at 3,900. But like if you wanted to play like a 4-man San Diego with this type of build, I'm not going to fill this in obviously. There were kind of low-owned teams that you could even complement with this. Like we talked about playing some Oakland, for example. And Oakland you could fit in like criminally easily here. If you wanted to. So that's just an idea.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for what it's worth, San Diego, I mean, just as much as we say, like, they've been the popular team, like they've scored a total of 7 runs in 2 games.
Yep.
There's plenty of reasons you can talk yourself out of them. I do think because the hitting weather, it's nice and 73 degrees in Colorado today. I do think that this is the best spot that they've been in the 3 games so far, for what it's worth.
And you know how it goes, by the way. I mean, we've done this with the Dodgers before. Like the Dodgers have gone into Colorado and played 4 games. And one after another, they were like once more popular than the other. and they would score like 2 and 3 and 2 and 2, and everybody would get all annoyed. And then like they would go into San Francisco the next series and score 12. You know what I mean? Like, I think one of those aforementioned games that was like a Chad Cool game from last year. I think it was, or 2 years ago, whatever it was.
Yeah.
But just when you think, oh, this is the one we're going to get, this is the one they're going to get them. I mean, it's still baseball. You still have to get the ball on the bat to get that atmosphere going for you, I suppose.
And for what it's worth, without Machado, San Diego is not a good offense without Machado. Just we think of them as this thing that they're not, because Juan Soto is not there anymore. You know what I mean? You say if Soto and Machado are out, you know, you've got Profar, who was a platoonish player not long ago, batting cleanup. Like it's not like this is some high-powered offense. It's just such great hitting conditions, and the top of it with Bogarts, Tatis, Cronenworth, and then Kim in the 5 spot, along with the cheap Campusano. All those guys can hit. It's just the rest of the team is sort of meh. But I like this Atlanta idea. I think this is another good spot to go back there. They always get there in the weirdest ways. I feel like they score more runs in the 7th and 8th inning than like anybody.
How do you get there? How do you get to these guys? I mean, you play Duvall. I mean,
Duvall, and depending on whether it's Kalenic, Guillerme. So one of Guillerme or David Fletcher will be in there at 2,400 and 2,300. One of those two will be in there. Kalenic, is 3,200. He might be in there today. So we'll see on that one.
Let me ask you this: can you play Kansas City today?
Yeah, I mean, I don't like the situation particularly.
They're expensive too. All of a sudden, Kansas City is starting to become a little frothy.
They become like the Sheets, as you would call them, the trendy team. They're the hipster team.
The hipster team.
Everybody's talking. Every time I listen to a show, it's who's good as these Kansas City Royals every time. Like it's like the same thing, sort of like your Arizona thing from a couple years ago. So
you think Kepler sits, by the way, against Crochet? Is that what they do with Kepler now?
I think Kepler will play against the lefties right now, but I'm not 100% sure on that. He would probably be, but he might bat like 7th or 8th. More likely 6th would be my guess if I had to make a guess.
I'm telling you, I don't have too many teams here. So like Atlanta, like you said, I mean, if you could get them in, great. The Yankees, I have to tell you though, for reasons we discussed earlier, I just don't want to play Juan Soto at 6,200. I mean, he's amazing. He's amazing.
And then he walks.
And then he walks.
Yeah.
And then he walks.
But you don't need to. I mean, you can take the Judge route, or you can skip both of them and just hope that they get the walk side on their upside, and you get the power out of Stanton
or maybe Rizzo does something.
Rizzo or Glaber or something like that. And then you've got Verdugo, who's cheap. I still maintain, I don't know what, I actually haven't looked recently. Let me just see what he's hitting. I do think Verdugo is going to end up being very good in Yankee Stadium, especially in the long run.
I couldn't believe it. I told you when I was at the game, we talked about this. He hit like a lefty freaking home run. And when it went out, I'm like, who? What? And he was, I don't know if you had him or you thought you had, whatever. He was like literally 0.6% owned or something like that.
Yeah. I played him that day in the Yankee stacks. I knew no one would play him lefty, but as a Dodger,
literally the last person rostered on like any Yankee stack was Alex Verdugo. Because why would anybody? You know what I mean? Yeah. Like you have Stanton, you have Judge, you have Volpe, and then if you wanted to play lefty, you play Soto. So it's like crazy. But like you said, Verdugo can do it lefty. This one happens being a righty, and he's only 3,300. He's probably a pretty good play here.
Yeah, I agree. I think that this is actually like a thing I could consider. And also, you could use the Yankees as a cheap complementary if you wanted to play that San Diego stack, or even let's say you wanted to you could do a 4-4.
Yeah, that's what I'm screwing around with right here.
Yeah. Oh, you are? Okay, sorry. I wasn't looking. But yeah, that makes sense. Anyway, should be a fun one, guys. I will be. Sheets, you will be live. You're good for live today or not?
Yeah, I'll be there.
So me and Sheets will be there for live at 6